and welcome. Tonight, Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, declares a state of emergency across the region. Senate approves President Bola Tinubu's request for troop deployment to Benin Republic after attempted coup. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara defects to the All Progressives Congress, criticizes the PDP for failing to protect him during the political crisis in the state, while his Osun State counterpart Ademola Adeleke joins the Accord Party. And US President Donald Trump accuses European nations of mishandling immigration and not doing enough to stop the war in Ukraine.
On business news, Central Bank of Nigeria inaugurates newly constituted board of the Agricultural Credit Guarantee Scheme Fund as part of efforts to boost financing for Nigerian farmers.
On sports news tonight, title holders Côte d'Ivoire become the latest team to announce their final squad with just 12 days before the African Cup of Nations holding in Morocco.
From the nation's capital, Vice President Kashim Shettima says President Tinubu remains committed to tackling the nation's security challenges.
The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has declared a state of emergency across the region. The president of the ECOWAS Commission, Mr. Umar Toure, made this announcement during the 55th session of the Mediation and Security Council at the ministerial level in the nation's capital, Abuja. Mr. Toure says that recent developments in the region call for serious introspection on the future of democracy and the urgent need to invest in security. Our correspondent, Benny Ark, reports.
The 55th session of the ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council opens in Abuja amid security challenges within the region, including military coups, violent extremism, and food insecurity. Diplomats and senior officials, including Nigeria's Minister of Defense, General Christopher Musa, are attending the meeting to consider the escalating political and security threats across the region. The meeting focuses on assessing country-by-country security risk, safeguarding democratic systems, and preparing for key elections in Guinea, Benin, and the Gambia, and Cape Verde. It also seeks to boost regional coordination against terrorism and organized crime.
Events of the last few weeks have shown the imperative of serious introspection on the future of our democracy and the urgent need to invest in the security of our community. Elections have become a major trigger of instability in our community. Despite the best of efforts of our community to establish constitutional convergence principles and to have a support program for elections in our region in order to safeguard our democratic credentials and stability, we have continued to witness political practices that violate some of these principles.
According to the Commission, the region faces a worsening humanitarian crisis driven by conflict and political instability, leading to the displacement of over 7.6 million people, food insecurity, which may force millions to hunger, prompting urgent calls for action to protect vulnerable populations.
Our region continues to see grim numbers on the humanitarian front. Behind these numbers are families, women and children who bear the brunt of instability. We must therefore take decisions and actions that will reverse this trend.
The political and security climate across the community is becoming more fragile, and our citizens are understandably very anxious. The discussions we have today must move beyond just reaffirming principles. They must generate decisions that offer real hope and strengthen the credibility of our institutions.
The Council is expected to issue strong security and governance recommendations to the heads of state and government, who are expected to meet later in the week to protect communities, preserve regional unity, and restore stability. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the Senate has approved President Bola Tinubu's request to deploy Nigerian troops to the Republic of Benin to support peace efforts and restore stability following last weekend's attempted coup. This approval was announced by the Senate President Godswill Akpabio after lawmakers considered the request and unanimously voted in favor of the deployment. Senator Akpabio, who described the decision as a step in the right direction, says the instability in any neighboring state poses a huge threat to the entire region. Our National Assembly correspondent Gloria Umezuke reports.
Barely 48 hours after a failed coup attempt in neighboring Benin Republic, lawmakers reconvened to consider a communication from President Bola Tinubu urgently seeking approval for the deployment of troops.
Further to a request received from the government of Benin Republic for the exceptional and immediate provision of air support by the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Minutes after, the Senate considered the request in a committee of the whole before it is subsequently passed.
Will the Senate now confirm the actions of Mr. President in the deployment of the Air Force and troops to Benin Republic to ensure peace mission and restore order and sanity in that country, thereby saving Nigerians from thousands and thousands of refugees? Those in support of the confirmation of the approval say aye. Those against say nay. The approval is hereby confirmed.
With the communication of
one lawmaker, however, interjects.
I have thought that with the communication of Mr. President, which has been read this morning, that we will discuss the validity and the appropriateness. Once it is closed, Mr. President, you cannot reopen it. It is sealed in concrete. Our endorsement of the action is total. It is not open to further conversation.
There was no need for debate when there is total consent. You will only debate when you have divergent views.
Separately, other concerns emerged during plenary, notably in the aviation sector.
From Abuja to Lagos ranges from 400 to 650,000. And then from here to Enugu is about 500,000. When we noticed all this, the committee, we decided to even investigate further. And we now find out that cut across, people cannot afford to travel.
This is over 400% increment at a go. We never had it this way, Mr. President. And that takes us to the question to the Ministry of Aviation of Federal Republic of Nigeria. When are we going to have back our Nigeria Air?
There is need for us, having known all these facts, to bring all these relevant stakeholders and confront them.
An attempt by a lawmaker to douse the blame was met with rousing disapproval.
It does not work for the airline owners. Everything is very high, and you cannot put the life of our citizens. No, it must go. It must go. But, okay, I'll take back that.
It's clearly a matter the upper chamber is eager to speedily resolve.
That the Senate should invite all relevant stakeholders immediately to appear before the Senate Committee on Aviation and other relevant committees immediately to avoid exploitation of Nigerians and disruption of travel plans.
In the meantime, the Senate has also summoned the Minister of Education for a meeting and public hearing with the Senate Committee on Basic and Secondary Education to address concerns about the introduction of new subjects into the school curriculum for students about to sit for the WAEC examination. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And as the festive season draws closer, the cost of domestic air travel in Nigeria continues to go higher, putting pressure on passengers who are eager to reunite with their loved ones. But as Nigerians grapple with rapidly rising fares, how do prices here compare with what obtains in other parts of the world? Our aviation correspondent, Bukola Joketumbi, reports.
From the entry door to check-ins, the atmosphere is not busier than usual. It's December, but not yet the peak of the Yuletide season. Ticket prices are climbing faster than the queues. Airlines have raised fares on high-demand domestic routes for late December travel, with some return fares now running into hundreds of thousands of naira. So passengers here bear their minds.
I buy my flight ticket 171 from here to Abuja. From Abuja, I will use it to Bauchi, and when I didn't get, I will use road.
Flight normally at about 110,000, normally. Why would it suddenly, because it's Christmas, you now double that? In some instances, you may even triple that. I think that might be what you call price gouging. So I suggest that the airline should be more sympathetic.
While airline executives cite operational cost pressures and demand as reasons for the increase, a travel consultant says the southeast routes are most affected as many Nigerians from the diaspora stream home to celebrate Christmas. Some, however, believe the security plays a vital role in the entire scenario.
A lot of Nigerians don't want to travel by road, so they are stuck with the option of going by air. People rather would fly and pay any amount to fly rather than risk their lives, going by road.
If you go to Lagos or Abuja, Asaba, Anambra, Enugu, Port Harcourt, Owerri, 2 times the price. If it's one of the airlines that uses a bigger aircraft, you will get it for 700 and something. The others that are using smaller equipment is over 800,000 naira, depending at what time you buy. Because those 800,000 is when you buy early.
How do these local prices compare to regional or international flights from Lagos or Abuja? On many international routes, for instance, Lagos-London, fares vary widely depending on carrier and booking dates. Some listings show round-trip prices from several $100s to over $4,000 with discounted windows and premium fares both visible. So, are local holiday spikes unique to Nigeria? Let's check a booking site listing fares from the JFK Airport in New York to Chicago O'Hare on 3 carriers from Christmas Eve through early January 2026. The starting prices denoted in Naira comes to about $203 to $277 for a one-way ticket. However, a new analysis from Upgraded Points, an Austin-based travel company in the U.S., found that for the Christmas travel window, average one-way fares sat around $282 or 58% above the baseline.
They have the culture of booking early. This is when you see all the platforms and portals doing promo because they're encouraging people to travel.
In the United Kingdom, domestic flights can sometimes be much cheaper on particular routes. Take, for instance, a flight from London to Manchester, which is about 139,000 naira or £69.5 for a return ticket. Or London to Leeds, which is higher on some carriers but lower on a budget carrier like Ryanair. The fares during the festivities are slightly affected because British travellers generally have more low-cost options that can soften price pressure. New data released by aviation analytics firm Cirium suggests that there is dramatic decline in intra-air travel in the United Kingdom due to a combination of factors which include a higher air passenger duty tax and airline strategy where carriers are prioritizing short-haul international services to destinations like Spain, France, and Italy where they can generate greater profits. For travelers, the practical advice is to book early, be flexible on dates where possible, and compare carriers. But for many Nigerians, the gap between wages and Yuletide fares is forcing tough choices this season. Bukola Joe Oketumbi, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara defects to the All Progressives Congress, criticizes his former party for failing to protect him during the political crisis in the state, while his Osun State counterpart Ademola Adeleke joins the Accord Party. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, declares a state of emergency across the region. Senate approves President Bola Tinubu's request for troop deployment to Benin Republic after attempted coup. Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara defects to the APC, criticizes the PDP for failing to protect him during the political crisis in the state, while his Osun State counterpart, Ademola Adeleke, joins the Accord Party. And US President Donald Trump accuses European nations of mishandling immigration and not doing enough to stop the war in Ukraine. To party politics, Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has announced his defection from the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, to the All Progressives Congress, the APC. He made this declaration at a stakeholders meeting held at the Government House in Port Harcourt just one day after meeting with President Bola Tinubu behind closed doors. Governor Fubara, who says that he had briefed President Tinubu on the situation in Rivers State, criticized the PDP, emphasizing that the party failed to protect him and his supporters during the political crisis.
Let nobody be fooled in this state. We have the people, we have the supporters, and we have the number. Our only thank you to Mr. President is to support him. And we cannot support Mr. President in isolation. And we can't support Mr. President if we don't fully identify with him, not backyard support. So we have taken that decision today, since we've gotten the pass. Everyone here who have followed me, who have suffered with me, our decision today, this evening, we are moving to APC.
In another defection move, the governor of Osun State, Ademola Adeleke, has officially joined the Accord Party just days after leaving the People's Democratic Party. The governor made the announcement on Tuesday at the banquet hall of the Government House in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, in the presence of national and state leaders of the Accord Party. Governor Adeleke says that his intention is to seek re-election for a second term on the platform of the Thumb Party, stating that he joined the party more than 1 month ago. According to him, I joined the Accord Party more than a month ago, precisely November the 6th, as a platform to seek re-election in 2026. And this was after weeks of consultations and deliberations with stakeholders and opinion leaders. Governor Adeleke also says that he opted for the party because its mission of welfareism aligns with his own administration's focus on citizens and workers' welfare. Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, has expressed pity for the governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara, for defecting to the All Progressives Congress, insisting that his political troubles are self-inflicted, having willingly taken the path that led to his current predicament. The National Publicity Secretary of the party, Enieme Bong, in a statement says the Rivers crisis exposes the broken democracy where powerful individuals overpower institutions and use federal machinery to crush their opponents. The PDP reminds Nigerians and the global community that with the unrelenting disposition of the ruling party towards the attainment of a one-party state and the constriction of the political space, democracy is under severe attack in Nigeria, and they're now asking everyone to rise to oppose what it described as an ignoble trip towards electoral authoritarianism. We head to the nation's capital, Abuja, now, where Millicent Walker is standing by to bring us more on the News at 10. Over to you, Millicent.
Many thanks. And we head to security, where President Bola Tinubu remains steadfast in tackling security challenges in the country and is acting decisively to address concerns. Well, that assurance is coming from the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, who insists that the Tinubu administration is determined to support the security establishment in Nigeria and beyond to discharge their responsibilities to the nation. The Vice President stated this when the faculty and participants of the Executive Intelligence Management Course 18 of the National Institute for Security Studies, led by the Commandant, Mr. Joseph Odama, visited him at the presidential villa.
Security is a collective responsibility of all of us. And indeed, we are facing some very interesting times, not just as a nation, but indeed across the African continent and across the globe. In this direction, synergy and cooperation is key. And so, given the caliber of members of this faculty, I think we are going to get the much-needed synergy between and amongst our security and allied establishments. On our part, the President will leave no stone unturned in giving monumental support and backup to all our security outfits. As Nelson Mandela rightly said, safety and security don't just happen. They are the result of collective consensus and public investment. And we owe our children, the most vulnerable citizens in our society, a life free of violence and fear.
Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima. Meanwhile, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi has met officials of the United States government who are currently on a fact-finding mission in Nigeria. The meeting, which held behind closed doors, had the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Democracy, Human Rights and Labor, Rayleigh Barnes, and the U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Richard Mills Jr., in attendance. Addressing journalists in Abuja after the meeting, Mr. Fagbemi explains that the federal government has secured 860 convictions, 881 acquittals over the past 8 years in its fight against terrorism.
The one that concerns the Federal Ministry of Justice is about the prosecution of the people arrested in connection with these extremism and about extremism. So, and we were able to explain to them and tell them how far we have gone, what we are also doing. For instance, today, as we speak, terrorism trial is still going on. I have been there today. I have taken one or two of the cases, and I want to seize this opportunity to let you know that as at today, that is from 2017 and 2025, we have secured 860 convictions and 891 acquittals, that is discharges. What this speaks to, particularly the issue of discharges of the defendants, is that we don't just arrest people and clamp them into prison. We follow due process. They are profiled. Those who have nothing to do will be left off the hook. Those we believe we have cases against, we take them to court. It is for the court to decide. So whenever the court takes a decision, we comply or abide by the decision. And that's why you have both convictions and acquittals.
Young people have been encouraged to deploy their ideas, creativity and energy to drive the growth and development of the country. This charge is coming from the president, who was giving at the second edition of the Nigeria Youth Academy Startup Grants Award and the unveiling of a digital work platform at the State House Conference Center, Abuja. Our State House correspondent, Larry Lasisi, has more.
It's the second edition of the Nigerian Youth Academy NIA Startup Grants Awards and the unveiling of the NIA Gig digital work platform. Gathered in their numbers are youth corps members, some of the beneficiaries, heads of government agencies, legislators, ministers, and other dignitaries. Representing President Bola Tinubu at the event is his Chief of Staff, Femi Gbajabiamila. The Minister of Youth Development, who is the host, says the Nigeria Youth Academy initiative is a unified digital ecosystem for youth education, employment, and upliftment.
Over 200 youth-led startups will receive 1 million naira each to start up their businesses. We are extending it directly to support the young people in the informal sector, whereby over 100 of them will be receiving 500,000 naira each to support their businesses.
Some of those present encouraged the youth to take advantage of the opportunity the NIA Gig digital work platform presents, describing it as a clear pathway to around 5 million jobs.
NIA and NIA Gigs are practical expressions of belief in empowering young people, preparing them for the future.
It was then time for President Tinubu's Chief of Staff to take to the podium.
Young people are the future of our great nation, and it is my duty to remove every barrier that limits their potential. To our young innovators, note that the grant you are getting today is not a prize. It is a vote of confidence from your nation. Build boldly, innovate courageously, scale fearlessly. You are the generation that will continue the task of building this nation.
The official unveiling of the NIA Gigs platform was then done.
We're moving up to prosperity very gradually. Congratulations to all of you.
Next was the symbolic presentation of the grants to beneficiaries. From the State House Conference Center, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Central Bank inaugurates newly constituted board of the Agricultural Credit Guarantee Scheme Fund as part of efforts to enhance financing for Nigerian farmers. That's all business news. Please join us again. Watching the news at 10 comes to you live from Abuja studios. We're in Zamfara State, where the Governor Dauda Lawal has unveiled a 10-year state development plan designed to serve as a long-term roadmap for transforming the state between 2025 and 2034. The governor, while launching the document in Gusau, describes it as an evidence-based blueprint that captures the aspirations of the people and provides a clear path towards sustainable and inclusive growth.
The unveiling of the Zamfara State Development Plan marks a major milestone in the administration's commitment to reposition the state for long-term prosperity. The strategic document provides a decade-long framework focused on economic recovery, social inclusion, institutional strengthening, environmental sustainability, and large-scale infrastructural development.
For many years, Zamfara has been defined by unrealized potentials. That era is ended. We have entered a phase of deliberate execution, an economic dynamic moving from projections to performance, from potentials to production, and from production to prosperity.
This state development plan has 6 pillars: security, agriculture and food security, education, empowerment, healthcare, and economy. And it aligns with the sustainable development goals. So basically, this is what the state development plan entails, from a GDP of 1 trillion to 3 trillion. In the next 10 years, we want to have a GDP of 6 trillion naira. and the IGR from the 24 billion naira to 35 billion naira annually. In the next 10 years, we want it to be 250 billion naira.
The plan also seeks to attract private sector investments, deepen institutional reforms, reduce poverty, and create an enabling environment for enterprise growth, with the aim of positioning Zamfara State as one of the fastest growing economies in northern Nigeria.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
While unveiling the document, Governor Dauda Lawal highlighted that the plan represents the first comprehensive long-term development framework in the state's recent history. He stressed that it is built on credible data, extensive stakeholder consultations, and alignment with national and global development agenda, including the Sustainable Development Goals, the Nigerian National Development Plan 2050, and the African Union Agenda 2063.
This development plan is embodiment of that result. It is the first comprehensive long-term plan in our state's recent history that is built on robust data, stakeholder engagement, and alignment with the national and global development frameworks, including the Sustainable Development Goals, Nigeria Development Plan 2050, and the African Union Agenda 2036. It sets clear sectoral priorities, measurable outcomes, and a monitoring evaluation framework that transparency at every stage of implementation. In this state development plan, we envision Zamfara becoming a benchmark for transformative economic growth, not merely for Nigeria, but for the continent of Africa.
With its unveiling, the Zamfara State Development Plan is expected to guide targeted investments in key sectors such as security, agriculture, education, healthcare, economic diversification, and infrastructure, charting a long-term course for sustainable progress across the state.
Well, staying with development plans outside our shores, Governor Obasani of Kaduna State has continued high-level engagements in Beijing, China, where he met with the top leadership of the China Communications Construction Company. The visit is part of preparations for the commencement of the $200 million Model Integrated Poultry Development Project, scheduled for January 2026.
A delegation from the Kaduna State government is in Beijing, China, as part of efforts to secure investment commitments for Kaduna State. The delegation takes a guided tour of several of the landmark engineering projects within the premises of the China Communication Construction Company. After the tour, the delegation settles down to a meeting with the management of the company to finalize a landmark $200 million integrated poultry project in the state.
Kaduna State is the first state in Nigeria to launch our agro-industrial processes in the whole of Nigeria. And of course, we are leading in some very important crops. We are leading in maize production in the whole of Nigeria. We are leading in the ginger production in the whole of Nigeria. We are leading in tomato production in the whole of Nigeria. And we are second in soybean in Nigeria. And that is the reason why we believe we have to continue to deepen our investment in agriculture. And this partnership will be extremely followed with a lot of political will and support from our government.
The delegation is hosted by the vice president of the company, who spoke to an interpreter, expressing full commitments to delivering the project according to the agreed timeline.
I think both the Kaduna State government and the NCSSP are making greatest effort to establish an industrial system in Nigeria, and we are very honored to be invited as a participant in this great cause.
The initiative, a pilot project chosen by President Bola Tinubu's administration, is said to be the largest integrated poultry hub in West Africa.
Your Excellency, let me use this opportunity to thank you for your selfless efforts and commitment to the development of Kaduna. and Nigeria at large. When we conceived this project, you were the first to promptly respond. The president chose Kaduna as the first pilot. And I remember him saying, let's hit the ground running in Kaduna. You responded immediately by offering 7,000 hectares of land.
The project, which is expected to generate over 350,000 direct and indirect jobs and an estimated $450 million in annual revenue, is scheduled to commence in January of 2026.
And that's it from Abuja. Anne, it's back to you.
Thank you, Millicent. Prominent Nigerian entrepreneur and business strategist Ms. Aisha Maina has officially launched the Ms. Maina and Nora Foundation, which she describes as an act of compassion grown into movement of impact driven by deep belief to flourish individuals and communities to thrive. She explains that the foundation is focused on 4 pillars, with each pillar reflecting the essence of human dignity and holistic development. Speaking during the official launch in Abuja, the founder, Mrs. Aisha Maina, says that 320 beneficiaries have been reached directly.
A delegation from St. Kitts and Nevis, including the Deputy Prime Minister and the Speaker of the country's parliament, arrived in Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport ahead of the launch of Ms. Maina and Nora Foundation. The foundation focuses on youth and family support and is involved in the founder's Africa-Caribbean initiative. After settling down to business, the delegation is joined by royal fathers, family and friends of the founder for the official launch of the foundation. Established on October 13, 2021, the foundation aims to enhance the health, well-being and dignity of vulnerable Nigerians.
Every program of the Ms. Maina Foundation is strategically aligned with the 2030 SDG target for sustainable development.
Already, the foundation has over 7 active interventions, reaching over 320,000 lives at 175 million naira investment.
Maina Foundation come in and help my patients who need insulin for survival.
It's more than a blessing. Thank you very much.
The foundation is also building bridges to connect Africa to the Caribbean.
And the system has fought against it. And it has brandished them many things, mostly negative. But today, again to the work of Ms. Maina, we're here to correct that narrative.
As she continues to bless the lives of others, we too will join with her in ensuring that her vision comes true as she continues to support our federation as well.
There were cultural performances to the delight of the guests. The founder underscores the birth of the foundation.
I would say that all of this really is in honor of my parents, because in us they instill that we must give no matter how little.
She's also committing to sustaining the foundation as she announces the 2025 to 2030 roadmap.
Going forward, we have 4 pillars, and these 4 pillars are named after, or they're named in the words of Nigerian tribe. So we're going to be able to enlighten people, have cultural exchanges, and reach out wider into global Africa.
The highlight of the event is presentation of lifetime awards to some prominent Nigerians.
Let's head to the world of business, where they're standing by to give us more stories.
Thank you, Anna. On business news, in what it describes as a new era for agriculture financing, the central bank has inaugurated a new board for the Agricultural Credit Guarantee Scheme Fund, ACGSF. The CBN governor, Mr. Olaimi Cardoso, made this known today in Abuja, where he told industry stakeholders that the move marks a defining moment for the institution and Nigeria's wider efforts to use agriculture as an engine for growth, employment and food security. Mr. Cardoso explained that low lending by banks to farmers in the country underscores the need to reposition the ACGSF as a more dynamic instrument for channeling capital to Nigeria's agribusiness ecosystem. And about 311 billion naira is knocked off from the domestic stock market as it turns negative at the close of Tuesday's trading session. Willie Bong tells us more.
Welcome to the Stock Market Report. What a way to end the second trading day of the week. We saw the market losing 311 billion naira today to close at 93.65 trillion naira and reversing the gains we saw on Monday. The all-share index is down about 1/3% at 146,940 points. Let's look at the drivers for the downtick today. Banking sector was down 0.05%, and this is because investors sold off Access Holdings and Zenith Bank. Consumer goods unchanged. And we see oil and gas up 0.08%, as that's because Japan Gold and O&O made the moves today. Let's look at top trades and see how stocks performed overall in terms of volume. Of the over 1.9 billion shares that were traded today, eTransact caught a share of about 1 billion shares. Investors are eyeing eTransact, and we're going to be digging deeper and to know what's happening there, more of our conversations. Access Holdings, we know the sell-offs there. We saw 183 million units sold today, and Cornerstone cut 150 million shares. We're hoping that this is just a blip in the whole trading for the week. We're hoping to see a reversal tomorrow, and that's the highlight for today. Will Ibong signing out.
And that's it on Business News. Back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Dominic. And outside our shores, U.S. President Donald Trump has criticized European leaders as weak, suggesting that the U.S. could scale back support for Ukraine. According to him, decaying European countries have failed to control migration or take decisive action to end Ukraine's war with Russia, accusing them of letting Kiev fight until they drop. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news and around the world in 5 from our London studio.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Millions of children and teenagers under the age of 16 have lost access to their social media accounts in Australia after a world-first ban came into effect. Instagram, Facebook, Threads, X, Snapchat, Kik, Twitch, TikTok, Reddit and YouTube are among the platforms required to enforce the new legislation. Parents and children won't be punished for breaking the ban, but companies face fines of up to $32 million for breaches.
You'll know better than anyone what it's like growing up with algorithms, endless speeds, and the pressure that can come with that. That's why we've taken this step to support you. If you have questions, by all means, reach out. Talk to your parents, your teachers, and your friends.
Ukraine is preparing to present a revised peace plan to the White House as it seeks to avoid making territorial concessions to Russia. Kyiv is set to propose alternatives after President Volodymyr Zelensky again ruled out surrendering land, saying he had no right to do so under Ukrainian or international law. He made the comments after meeting European and NATO leaders on Monday, part of a push to deter the US from backing a peace deal which includes major concessions for Ukraine and which allies fear would leave it vulnerable to a future invasion.
So where are we today? Well, it's very clear. We have a global environmental crisis.
A key UN report on the state of the global environment has been hijacked by the United States and other countries who were unwilling to go along with the scientific findings. That's according to the report's co-chair. The Global Environment Outlook, the result of 6 years' work, connects climate change, nature loss and pollution to unsustainable consumption by people living in wealthy and emerging economies. It warns a dire future for millions unless there's a rapid move away from coal, oil and gas and fossil fuel subsidies. Sudan's Air Force has carried out bombings in which at least 1,700 civilians have died in attacks on residential neighborhoods, markets, schools and camps for displaced people. That's according to an investigation into air raids in the country's civil war. The Sudan Witness Project says it has compiled the largest known data set of military airstrikes in the conflict, which began in April 2023. Its analysis indicates that the Air Force has used unguided bombs in populated areas. The RSF has been internationally condemned for allegedly carrying out ethnic massacres in Sudan's western Darfur region, triggering charges of genocide by the United States. At least 30 people have been injured after a magnitude 7.5 earthquake hit northeastern Japan, forcing thousands of people to evacuate their homes. The quake occurred at a depth of 50 kilometers. It prompted tsunami warnings, which have now been lifted, while waves of 27 inches were seen. Some train services have been suspended and thousands of homes have been left without power as a result. New York City Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani will live in the Manhattan mansion that his predecessors have called home, leaving behind a rent-stabilized apartment that became the subject of heated debate during his campaign. Gracie Mansion, which dates to 1799, has served as the residence for most New York City mayors since World War II. But Mamdani, for whom affordable housing is a central issue, did not confirm he would live there immediately following his victory in November. Paramount Skydance has made another offer to buy Warner Brothers Discovery as it seeks to trump a rival plan from Netflix to buy the company's studio and streaming networks. Paramount, which is backed by the billionaire Ellison family, said it was making a direct offer to shareholders of $30 per share to scoop up the whole of Warner Brothers, including its traditional television networks. It said its proposal was a superior alternative to Netflix's, delivering more cash up front to shareholders and greater prospect of approval by regulators.
I have separation, docking system mode is complete.
And NASA's Johnny Kim, accompanied by Roscosmos cosmonauts Sergei Ryzhkov and Alexei Zubritsky, have returned to Earth from the International Space Station.
Sergei Ryzhkov, out of the Soyuz, 600...
They landed in Kazakhstan, having completed the 245-day mission aboard the ISS, orbiting Earth 3,920 times and travelling nearly 104 million miles. The mission marks the first spaceflight for Kim and Zubritsky, while Ryzhkov concludes his third journey to space.
NASA's Johnny Kim.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Let's now delve into the world of sports. Chris Illems is standing by.
Thank you, Anne. Welcome to Sports News. 8 games will be played on Wednesday as the Nigerian Women Football League Premiership enters Week 3 across the country. In Group A, Adamawa Queens will host Ibom Angels in Makwada Stadium in Numa, Adamawa State. In Ekiti State, or rather Ado Ekiti, Ekiti Queens will face visiting Edo Queens. Paysetters Queens and Rivers Angels will be in action in Ibadan. In Group B, FC Robo Queens will take on Delta Queens. Confluence Queens will take on Remo Stars Ladies. The other games in Group B includes Abia Angels against Oshun Babes, Ahudi Yenem Queens, and Nasarawa Masons in Akure. A Côte d'Ivoire coach has named his final 26-man squad for the 2025 CAF African Cup of Nations, with Wilfred Zaha making a surprise return and Simon Adingra missing out of the squad. The announcement was made this afternoon as the defending champions confirmed the squad they will take to Morocco. The 26-man squad will be supported by 2 reserves who will be on standby in case of pre-tournament withdrawals. Côte d'Ivoire enter the tournament in Group F alongside Cameroon, Gabon, and Mozambique. Lionel Messi has won his 2nd consecutive Major League Soccer Most Valuable Player award earlier today after propelling Inter Miami to the MLS title and leading the league in goals. Messi becomes the first player to win back-to-back MLS MVP awards and only the 2nd player in the league to capture 2 MVP awards after Preki in 1997 and 2003. The 38-year-old forward scored 29 goals in regular season, the fourth most in any MLS campaign, and set up 19 others to claim the MLS Golden Boot. And Gabriel Jesus has been added to Arsenal's Champions League squad ahead of Wednesday's clash at Club Brugge as the Brazil striker steps up his long-awaited return from injury. Jesus has not played for Arsenal since January after suffering a knee injury during an FA Cup tie against Manchester United. But 28-year-old is back in training and has been an unused substitute for the Gunners' recent matches against Chelsea and Brentford. And Real Madrid's French superstar Kylian Mbappe was not involved in the team's training earlier today as on the eve of his team's key Champions League clash against Manchester City. The forward broke a finger during the defeat by Celta Vigo in La Liga on Sunday, and Madrid says his absence from training was because of that injury, but also other discomfort he suffered in that match. If Mbappe is unable to play against City on Wednesday, it would be a big blow for coach Xavi Alonso, with Spanish media reporting that a defeat would lead to his dismissal. That sport is back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Chris. And the main news again. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has declared a state of emergency across the region. The Senate today approved President Bola Tinubu's request for troop deployment to Benin Republic after attempted coup. River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara, defects to the APC, criticized the PDP for failing to protect him during the political crisis in the state, while his Osun State counterpart Ademola Adeleke joins the Accord Party. And US President Donald Trump has accused European nations of mishandling immigration and not doing enough to stop the war in Ukraine. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawado. Good night and stay safe.